interesting thing you've done is that you've grown a lot, and a lot of it is also through acquisitions, which is a very unique strategy. And yes, it happens, like with YouTube and Google and Facebook with Instagram, and we've learned all those stories. But a lot of people don't necessarily know how to see how hard it is to make that work. For every one of those, there's so many that didn't work out. What drove you to that strategy, and how has that been working out with integrating with the culture and company as you grow very fast?
Yeah, look, I think we once we created this really massive vision around being the connected infrastructure end to end, being able to solve for 10 of the 15 apps that, for example, you are used to using as a direct-to-consumer brand. We then realized that doing it is actually really hard. So the vision itself is very compelling and enticing, that hey, connected infrastructure is better than a disconnected one, and having all of your data in one place is better than not having it in all in one place. And having some sort of economic benefit, because if we're the connected infrastructure, we're not like 20 apps that have to charge you for every single thing, right? We can give you some unit economic, like the idea was like very compelling, but then we'll be, okay, well, how the hell do we execute on this, right? And this is where, again, it goes back to having really smart people. And we said, look, if you start building all of this, it is going to take us one, really long time. And two, we're probably not going to get it right. And what I mean by that is, if you have a management team that's focused on fulfillment operations, they'll do that well. But then if you have a management team that's focused on software development, they'll do that well. But if you have a team that has to focus on both things, it's really hard to kind of like build this atoms and bits and bytes combination of sorts, right? So honestly, man, we kind of decided by trial and error that there was no way, no amount of money and no amount of time would we be able to reduce the execution risk of building a connected infrastructure unless we acquired certain pieces and had a head start, right? So that was one reason. The other reason was, just the need for speed, right? Like again, this goes back to the early part of my life where I really don't believe there's a tomorrow. I literally, like, every day, like, tomorrow is not going to be there, and every single decision I make every day, from the time I get up to sleep, is somewhat in the back of my head. I'm thinking about that, right? So I was like, we got to move fast, right? And we're not going to spend 10 years trying to build this when we can actually go acquire pieces. So in order for us to get that right, though, and convince investors that it's not going to be, to your point, right, the same statistical ratio that McKinsey talks about, that 76% of acquisitions fail, we have to spend significant amounts of time in organizing and architecting the technology that has to bring everything together, right? So the reason Cart's valuable today is we've invented the technology that connects different pieces in a way at the database level, right, and at the core architectural level that I just don't think anybody else can do, right? So that was one area that we focused on. That hey, the technology has to integrate. We can't have like a bunch of pieces that are not working. Then you're just putting lipstick on a pig, right? You're still a freaking pig, where you've got all these different pieces that are disconnected, and someone's like holding it all together. Like that wasn't going to work. So we have to have core infrastructural technologies that connected the dots at every database, architectural, product, inventory, pricing, orders, customer level, that allowed brands to feel that everything was very, very, very good. The second thing we did is we spent a lot of time thinking about the operational architecture that was needed, right? So how do we execute once we acquire a company, the acquisition, integration? We spent a lot of time doing that. Again, we hired some of the best people in the industry. My chief strategy officer was a guy that was leading a $2.3 billion private equity buyout fund before he came working for me, right? And then number three, look, organizationally, right? You have to prepare yourself for acquisitions. And what I mean by that is, day one, before you decide to go buy something, you have to think about how do you retain the founders, how do you retain the core people, and where does it fit in the company, right? And in 9 out of 10 times, if you think about it, an entrepreneur that has just sold a company, they kind of want to stick around, right? So what I learned was, like, if you structured the deal with 1/3 equity, 1/3 cash, 1/3 earnout, then for their earnout, they'll at least pay for 3 years. And if they have equity in Cart, then you kind of get the idea that they buy into Cart vision, and will probably want to not hurt the company by leaving it, right? So we did a lot of tactical things because our survival depended on it, right? So again, if you're a Walmart or a Microsoft or a Salesforce, you make a $2 billion acquisition, and it fails. You come in front of the Jim Cramer and say it fails, and you write it off and move on, right? Then you go back 2 years, right?
Well, a lot of consultants make a lot of money, so
yeah, I mean, the lawyers, consultants, right? The best business in the world, right? Because they make money regardless of the outcome. So we couldn't do that. We were going to die as a company if we didn't figure this out properly. So spent a lot of time thinking about that, and honestly, that helped us be very successful at it.